Let's face it, Donald Trump is mad at black people and wants to punish them. There is nothing more telling than the actions of a small, angry, entitled, privileged, resentful white male. When it comes to the recent actions of Donald Trump, all that one need do is look at those who hold his impish ass accountable for all his criminal activities, and those who have outshined him over and over again in their own accomplishments and their own commitment to a country he claims to love so much. When you do that, what you see staring back at you are black people, specifically black men who, in every area of their lives in this country, and despite their many disadvantages, have outperformed, outshined, and outlasted his failing attempts to match them in their talent, ability, and bravery. He wants to be black so badly so that he too possesses those attributes, but knows it is impossible to change his skin color. Over the last few years, it has been black people that have held his feet to the fire and raked him over the coals of accountability when it comes to his criminal activities. People like Alan Bragg, people like Fawny Willis, and others who have had no problem looking at Donald Trump right in his eyes and telling him that he is a dishonest, disloyal cheat, a liar, a failed businessman, and an overall pretty crummy and creepy individual. The only people seemingly fit and capable of holding Donald Trump accountable for his actions are the ones that he is now taking deliberate steps towards erasing their accomplishments. Accomplishments he himself could never achieve. And yet he goes about the daunting task of stripping them of the history of those acts as if that would erase the acts themselves. Of course, he knows that he can never completely erase what has been accomplished by the black people he hates so much. Yet he also realizes that his hatred and malice is a sentiment held deeply within many white people. And so he uses them to further that effort and revels in the attempt. These white people match his own energy and maintain his viewpoints and thus assist in his useless attempt to erase the accomplishments of black people in this country. That being the case, there's nothing more cowardly and petty than a white male who has failed at nearly everything, yet must look across the aisle at black men and women who are successful at those same things without the privilege and without the deck stacked in their favor. The very notion of that fact is one that he simply cannot live with. And so, with his ascension back into the office of the presidency, he's doing everything in his power, not only to eliminate all that has been accomplished by the black men and women who are far better than him in every respect, but also to stimulate their anger within, doing this so that he may clamp down on their liberties and further punish them for being who they are and what he is not. An abject, absolute, and abysmal failure at being a father, a husband, a businessman, and of course, an individual who dodged the draft when it was time for him to ante up and be a legitimate and brave white man, joining the ranks of the military as other white men have done in the past. Instead, he feels the shame that he should feel and knows that in his heart he is a coward. Yet he is unable to unwrite that history, as it is a matter of public record and cannot be expunged. As opposed to that, as a possibility, he reaches into the history books of the military and elsewhere and does his level best to eliminate the records of brave black men and women. He strips black men and women of their responsibilities in the military. He condones efforts to try and put away and into hiding the bravery of Black men and women within the military of this country, which is the reason he has such a resentment for the military. His accomplishments in real estate are all he can lean on, and yet that lack of any military record is glaring in its example of his neglect to serve this country and show his commitment toward its protection and growth. Black men and women have done this their entire existence while in this country. During slavery, after slavery, during Reconstruction, segregation, Jim Crow, Black codes, and every other instance in which Black people have had the opportunity to serve and do so with honor. Donald Trump has no honor to offer. And that is a constant reminder, both publicly and personally, that he cannot erase through his attempted removal of the historic advancements and accomplishments of Black people who have served this country honorably, unlike he has. The painful and pathetic truth of the matter is that he won't stop. Just as he can't stop the painful and pathetic thoughts of his own inability to fill the void that must plague his conscience, knowing that Black people have done for this country things that he can only dream of in the nightmares of his tattered history. The echoes of his non-accomplishments in the military spectrum must ring loudly between his ears, more likely 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So he goes about the abysmal task of attempting to remove from memory any reminder of his inability to answer the call, as so many Black men and women have done throughout the centuries while in this country. He is truly ashamed of himself, and he feels that shame deeply. And nothing can remove that sense of emptiness from him in his feeble attempts to punish Black people for being Black people, committed, responsible, loyal, accomplished, and in every sense of those words, everything he is not and can never be. Donald Trump also wants white people in this country to join with him in his resentment of Black people, transferring to them his deeply held malice and hatred. In some respects, it appears to be working, and the outcome of all of this at this point remains to be seen. Yet there may come a moment in time when white people will wake up and understand the kind of narcissistic, petty, small-minded failure of a human being they've put back into the office of the presidency. He hates this country because he has no love for anything that doesn't further his interests and increase his wealth. He hates his supporters because some of them have served in the military and know that deep down, despite their support, he is a coward and a draft dodging failure of an American citizen. They overlook this as a fact because they see themselves when they see Donald Trump, but don't see beyond his whiteness and into the emptiness of his soul. When that vision of who and what Donald Trump truly is comes into clear focus in the minds of the supporters that have placed him in the highest echelons of power, he will then become to them what he is to himself: a sad, pathetic, empty shell of a human being whose only accomplishments are in fields of white male dominated structure and therefore slanted in his favor and for his success. Donald Trump is mad at Black people and wants to punish them for all that they have done, not to him, but for this country.